This is about our growth and the assessment, kind of an update, I think, maybe on the options that we have. I'm going to go ahead and let Dave and Aaron get up here and they can discuss kind of the options they came up with, and then we'll have kind of an open table discussion by the board members.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Long day.
Feels like it.
I hear it's been a long day for you all. Yes, what we've done is we've gone back and we've met with Barry, talked with Barry a couple times, and we've kind of got our understanding of what you all were looking for. And we met here last, I think it's been a couple months ago. And so we looked through some things and pulled together a two-phase approach for this, which actually has about 5 steps in it. But we've broken those up into 2 phases. I think the first phase is actually going to be looking at more of these site and facility assessments of all your buildings. So you've got 9 facilities and 9 sites. So we'll be looking to do a site facility assessment for all those. And then the other portion, the phase 2, would actually be the steps that are involved with actually going through the strategic planning process. So, and there's a lot of steps to that. And basically, let me kind of walk you through what we're looking at here. Basically, five steps in the whole overall process. The first step is basically we're going to analyze your current status and conditions. That's where the assessments and stuff come into. We're going to initiate the project, kind of meet with you all, whoever your designated representatives are. It might be Barry and whoever else wants to be involved, or maybe some of your supervisors. And we're going to basically make sure everybody understands what the scope of the work is. Then once we do that, we're going to be starting to pull together some requests for information. We're going to gather information from you all. We're going to basically be pulling together some questionnaires that we're going to send out to your supervisors, to your principals, so that we can get more information about your facilities, your site, your school system, what your enrollments are, a lot of that kind of stuff that we're going to be gathering from you all. Then we're going to actually come and schedule a meeting to actually, and I'm not sure of the titles of your supervisors here, but we want to kind of sit down with someone that's over the curriculum and enrollments and stuff to where we understand how you educate here in Smith County. So we're going to basically be looking at what is your typical program for an elementary school? What is it for a middle school? What is it for a high school? So that we understand what spaces you need to do education today. Now, a lot of the buildings that we come across, it's this way across the nation, are you have the rooms and stuff and the spaces in there are for the way education used to be. Things have changed. Trends have changed. A lot more open and collaborative spaces now in education. So we're going to be challenging you all on, is that where you want to go? Is that where you're at? Well, how do you educate here in Smith County? Because we got to better understand that so that when we walk through your buildings and look at them, we can say, well, that's not how you want to educate. We need to be able to look at that and see. The fourth subtask under step 1 is actually taking a multidiscipline team of engineers. We're going to have civil, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire protection, structural, architectural team that's actually going to be walking through every one of your schools and taking a look at those. And that may be a week-long process because you've got 9 of them. So we're going to basically take the time to go through those facilities and make sure we understand their physical condition, but also make sure we understand how you're using them. What's a classroom? Is that closet a classroom? Make sure we understand how you're currently using it right now so that we can analyze that and see how your buildings are performing for you, not only functionally and physically, but function in space. We need to know how you're using your facilities. Then from there, we're going to analyze that stuff and bring that stuff together and report back to you all on what we've seen through the assessment and the analyzing process, and document that into a binder that's probably going to be about that thick. And that'll be basically step 1 of the 5-step process. And that's going to be also phase 1. Step 1 is going to be phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be steps 2, 3, 4, and 5. So step 2 is we're going to basically come and meet with you all. We're going to review what you have. You probably have somewhere online or something, some goals, initiatives, and visioning that you all have done for your school system. We're going to dive into those and we want to understand what those are. And so then we'll take that information and then we'll come and meet with your staff and say, okay, is this still active? Is this still your goals and initiatives and vision? If not, then we're going to assist you in kind of establishing what those need to be in the future, going into the future, so that we know where you want to go. Then from there, we're going to basically do what we call a contextual analysis. We're going to look at the geography of Smith County and probably stretch out a little bit, because we know that you all got a little bit of influx from the east and the west, I believe. So we may be looking at a little bit of that as well. But we're going to look at the geography of Smith County, look at what industries you have. Is there anything coming? I think I've heard of some development that may be getting ready to take off or is in progress right now that's going to produce some homes. We're going to basically look and see what projections. We're going to look at census data, kind of look and see what the projections are as far as growth. We're going to be looking at some of that enrollment data that we're going to get from you all and try to project some of those trends and so those growths. We're also going to try to figure out where are all the students today living in Smith County. Now that's a very big task to try to get a map and put a dot for every student to where we can see where the clusters. But we're going to attempt to do that, and it depends on how much information we can get from, I guess, you all in the county and what tools we have to work with. But that's our intent, is to try to figure out where's all your student population in your county. And that'll start leading into, down the road in the planning process, where do your schools really need to be? Are they ideally positioned, this and that? So then we're going to basically inventory all that information. And we're also going to go ahead and pull together an inventory of every one of your sites, every one of your facilities. What do they have? How many classrooms do they have? How big are those classrooms? How many students can fit in there? What's the capacities of your facilities, both teaching both classroom and core capacities. You have two capacities. A lot of times, this day and age, you've added onto your facility so many times, your classroom capacity is bigger than your core, and you have lunch from like 9 or 10 in the morning until the afternoon. So we've got to look at those. We're going to see what kind of athletic field you want. And this is going to be some of the stuff we're going to look at. We're comparing it back to that first step where we're meeting with you all and talking about education and talking about all the stuff you need for every one of your sites. And we're going to say, okay, you said you want a 50 by 50 playground area for every elementary school. Do you have it? We're going to start pulling that inventory together and see what you got. Then we've got a couple of opportunities here to actually engage community involvement in this process, if this is something you all desire. We've got a visioning workshop, basically, where we're going to basically pull together you all and get the community together and have just kind of a visioning session and hear what the community has to say about the vision of Smith County in education and get some input from them. And that'll go into probably a second kind of thing where we have more of an open house to where we really get the students, parents, and community involved in doing some more dialogue with the community. So there's a couple opportunities there to where we can actually reach out to the community, bring them into the process, and kind of see what they think and get them on board with the process. Then at the end of that step, we're going to basically document everything. All the goals and objectives, we'll get all that stuff documented. Then step 3, that's when we start to identify strategic planning solutions. We're going to take all that information that we just gathered and we're going to basically synthesize it all together and see what it tells us, compare it to what you have. Then we're going to develop and test some of those planning solutions against those goals and objectives we helped you establish. Then from there, we're going to basically do some initial reporting with you all, meet with you all, make sure everything is going along the way. We don't want to go too far without you all seeing it. So we make sure that we keep you all informed all along the way. And this whole process, I think in looking at this, there's probably built into this probably about 11 or 12 meetings and probably about 3 different presentations throughout this whole process. So, and then from that, we will basically document everything we've got into a draft presentation of what these strategies are. Then we're going to go into step 4, and we're going to help you select what strategy you want to proceed with. We'll basically do some presentations with you all. We will record the feedback we get from you all. We'll actually also look to have a community forum, a third community opportunity, to where when we get that draft plan pulled together, we can get it out there and have a forum to where we present those to everybody, get some feedback and input, see what we have there. Then we'll meet with you all, see if everything is still on the right track and what you're looking at. And then from that point, we will basically update the plan and basically pull together the final strategic plan. And then at that point, help you make that final selection of what you want to do. So that's step 4. Step 5 is an easy one. You all just implement it and move forward. And with the understanding that this is a living document. At the end of this process, and that steps 2, 3, 4 are going to create probably another binder just that thick. You're going to probably have about 2 binders about that thick. One's going to be all that information about your existing facilities, what condition they are, programmatic information, how you use them. The next one's going to be all the information we gather, the input we gather from community, from you all, from meeting with your all supervisors, your principals, and pull together those visioning strategies and get that stuff documented into multiple options that you're going to be selecting from to move forward. So with that, step 5 is the easy one for us. Maybe more complicated for you all is implementing that and moving forward with that plan.
How long does it take for like each step? Like step 1, how long do you anticipate that being, and then step 2?
Yeah, Dave asked me that question too, and I told him I hadn't had time to really look at that.
Well, just in a typical, I know we've got more buildings probably than you normally evaluate in the system, but
Yeah, I think the thing, when we did phase, and we did this in Athens, when I was with another firm, I did this for Athens, and they're just now starting to implement their plan. They have a 5-school system, which is about half of your all's. And actually, the assessment portion, I believe, took us about 2 or 3 months. I'm hoping that our assessment portion here is going to take quicker than that. I really want to push that quicker than that, or maybe around that same time frame. Then the planning part is going to basically be what all do you all, so of this list that we've given you all, what all you all really want to have in this? I mean, you've got some options if you don't want some of these things or this and that, or you want to provide more of the information versus us going out and getting it, then there's going to be some selections here that you all need to make some decisions and see if you want us to do every bit of that, or there's some of that stuff you just want to go ahead and handle and provide it to us to integrate into the planning process. The planning process, that probably could be easily another 3-4 months. Because I think if you really want to kind of take the time to get strategies pulled together and then organize those community events and those meetings and all of those interviews with everybody, there's some time there. So, so maybe you're talking about maybe 6-8 months total, possibly. And again, I need to look at that, but that's kind of what I'm estimating on that.
that's actually kind of what I had in my mind, but I didn't know because just based on what you said you have to do, if I was the one doing it, it would take at least that.
Yeah. I know that we've estimated a week walking through these facilities. Mm-hmm. It may not take a week, it may take 2, but we're trying to be aggressive with that. And that's going to be the one thing. So on that portion right there, how we usually do this is our team of engineers will come and we'll start out that day, that first day, meeting with your all's maintenance staff and the maintenance supervisor, and we will basically, and before that, they've got their homework, because we want those questionnaires are going to come back. Some of those questions are, do you see any cracking in your building? Do you have any roof leaks that are just a headache and they keep happening? Some of those things. Is there any parts of the building that are hard to keep the temperature in, so that way we can find out if things insulated or not. So we'll have that. We're also going to be asking your maintenance staff to pull us a history of stuff that's happened to date. When's the last time the roofs were put on each one of these buildings, and this and that. So in this process, we're also going to dive into the history of every building, because what we want to come out with is we want to know how many buildings are at that one site. Because all of our school buildings this day and age are original, and then there was an addition, and then there was another addition. So we want to know how many buildings are sitting there. And we actually will evaluate those separately per age, because it might be that 2001 edition that you put on, I think it was defeated you put on there. It might be just fine, but the 1970 or whenever that was built was not, and we might need to tear that portion down and update that again and use the 2001. So that's the strategy pieces that we're looking to do. And that's why we kind of break those buildings apart, know the history of the building, break it apart, where you can give that a score. That's a good score. This is not so good. Doesn't have any insulation in the walls and stuff. So that's how we're going to do that, and we can break those pieces apart. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into pulling all the information together and walking over all these facilities. But your maintenance staff are going to basically give us that kind of stuff, at least to give us a head start, so we don't have to go out there and just guess everything. There's stuff that you all just know from your data that we're going to be pulling from you all. So, is there any other questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
It sounds about a very determined, methodical approach,
Mhm.
which is what I was hoping to hear back from you, because, you know, I think we've all said we don't know what or if we need. You know what I'm saying? We
Yes.
just want what's best for our children moving forward. But what you presented there sounds very methodical. I don't know how we could ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, and actually, my preference is to know very little about desires and stuff going into this, so that our team can basically look at this thing objectively and just see
Yeah, that's
what
right.
it is. Now we do, I mean, data and stuff. We got to get data from you all as far as construction and this and that, and how things are performing for you all. But basically, we're going to look at this thing objectively and basically see where the data takes us. And whatever it spits out, you know, it's going to be your all's decision.
Well, the
which
other
option
thing
to
I like
select.
about that is that you mentioned community involvement multiple times. And I think that's extraordinarily important. I mean, the school system belongs to our community. And I think that their input, or, you know, want to come to a meeting or make commentaries or be informed of whatever, is very important. And I like that is part of your methodology.
Yeah. I think the thing that we got to determine early on is who it would be good to have those designated team members that you all will need, that we're going to have to be dialoguing with and reporting to on a regular basis, getting that nailed down, like your supervisors and this and that, and whatever else community engagement we need to have. It'd be good to know that going into it. But yeah, I think the community pieces are important, because, like you said, at the end of the day, they're the ones out there. Those kids are in those facilities, and so we want to make sure that we're hearing that voice.
Y'all are too quiet. I mean, y'all talked all day. Somebody's got to have a question.
I've heard had my hand up somewhere.
Wore out.
We're all wore out.
Well, this is not the first time we've heard this,
No,
I mean,
no,
either, so.
No, we've all got a pretty good idea.
They've been very kind to present a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I guess what would be our next step would be whether look at the proposal and decide what parts
Yeah.
of it, all of it.
Yeah, so
something
what
we'll
I've
do,
got
and then discuss that.
here is, I'm calling this a pre-proposal because kind of just need to see what you all want, what you think is important, and what you might not need.
I'm guessing next meeting, we all look at this pre-proposal and then kind of have a discussion on the next meeting. Do you agree?
Thank you, sir.
Everybody agree with that?
Okay.
We'll have, that'll give us time to look at this, discuss what, I mean, it's kind of hard just to look right at this and see what we want.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and I'll just say one thing for my part, okay? You used a phrase there that I think is interesting and I think is relevant. What you want and what you need. You know, that may not always be the same thing. I've been very interested in what or if we need, and then we'll talk about what we want, you know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
is two very separate things, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
Yes, and we know that, and we also know that, you know, particularly school system to school system, we know that the challenge always is funding and money and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why we've kind of given you some options there at the bottom. I think the overall process that we pulled together for you all is what we would recommend to do to get the most comprehensive result out of this. And if you do select to kind of pull back from that just for budgetary reasons, and you are providing some of that data, it's not going to prevent us from doing the plan, but it might It might adjust it, I mean, it might make an impact on it slightly. I don't think it's gonna be a big one, but I think that, like I said, the recommended thing is for let us go out there and get the information and stuff, and let our team of engineers go out there and grab all that information, see the sites and do this stuff. But we also know and are very mindful of funding, so.
Well, yeah, but we can't have a determination of what our if needs are without you doing this. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, I think that's.
Excuse me.
Bless you, David. Bless you.
I need that.
Dave, did I miss anything? Anything you wanna add?
I don't think so. I think that, when we first started this discussion several months ago, I guess, it seemed like the thing that you guys were looking at is what do we have and what do we need? What are our needs and where are those needs? And if there is something we need to add on to or expand or build, then where does that need to go? Without any preconceived notion about what you want to do. And that's the process that we're talking about. It's an objective process, and it gives you the information to make good, sound decisions on what you think you need to do.
Well, we really, I think the board in general understands that we clearly need to spend our money wisely, and whatever we do or whatever we ask the community to invest in, because it's going to have to be a community effort to build anything or do anything. We don't want to spend that money in an area where it's not needed. And so the only way to know, and I mean, none of us are experts. We all have our trades and we're all good in those areas, but we're not civil engineers. We're not, that's not our field, nor do we know how to do all of these things. And having an objective idea, I mean, we all have probably ideas that would probably benefit, maybe certain areas more than others, or our own district more than another, just because that's your natural inclination to do that. But having an objective opinion, I think, is really important, and I think it would probably go over better as a whole rather than somebody appearing to have an agenda, rather than not. So that's just my 2 cents.
No, I agree. And we talked about that early on, that this is just very neutral, objective, nobody's personalities involved or anything like that, just what do our children need?
We don't have
the bottom
any
line.
egos involved at all.
Yeah.
It's just
What do our kids need? That's what's important, and that's what we want, and looks like what you're gonna present, so I'm good.
I think another thing that actually this could be used for, it could also be used to support your maintenance program. Because I know that one of the things that if we're able to do the full engaged, multidisciplined engineering reviews of your buildings, I know that once Athens was done, Athens maintenance supervisor took that and put together a program to address all the stuff that we found. Because the other thing that we're going to be doing, we're not only going to be in the facilities, we're actually going to be in the drawings that build some of those portions of the buildings, and we're going to be looking at those drawings. We don't have all the drawings, but we've got some of those, particularly those last additions and stuff. But we're also going to be diving into the code, and as a part of the assessment, we're going to basically be looking at your facility the way it is right now compared to today's code to see how in compliance code-wise, because codes change. I wish they didn't. It'd be a lot easier if we could just build by one code, and there are multiple codes out there. So we are going to basically be looking at a multidiscipline code review to kind of see, okay, of this building, are all your electrical panels in code, and are they in capacity, all that kind of stuff, as well as is your means of egress correct, is your accessibility requirements, which is another challenge sometimes. We're
I'm
going to be
glad to
looking
hear
at
that, although it does make me a little bit anxious.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
because some of our facilities are rather old.
And we will also, we're not experts in security, but we know security is a very hot topic today.
Very much so.
And I was able to do a little bit of the stuff in Athens when I did that one, is if we see something that, hey, because there was one, I just walked up to a school in Athens and I just walked in the door. Without a badge, without any key, without anything. So it's one of those things where we'll flag that, hey, and even some of we'll reach out to the authorities having jurisdiction, which is state fire marshals. We'll even probably, if your police department have walked your facilities and stuff, and fire department, we're going to reach out to them. We're going to try to get those reports. I know there was one school that we looked at on that previous Athens work that the police officers just do not like that building because it's actually a bunch of round circle pods, and they can't see around the curves. Like you walk into a corridor and you can see all the way into that door. Well, with all those round pods and those circular corridors, you can't see anything.
Right.
So it's some of those things that we will basically note that really can impact your decision. You want to keep that facility. You want to make a modification to that or something. So we try to look at as much of that as we can and incorporate it into there to where you have as much data for this planning process that you can. I know y'all are dataed out today, but we try to put as much in there so we can give you an end result where you can make a good sound decision going forward.
Once you all have a plan together, I'm presuming that you will have like a utilization score, so to speak, I guess, at the end, and like you can do this, and this is the best utilization of your building space, but if not, then you could do this. Will we have options, or do you understand
Yes,
what I'm
we're going to be
asking?
looking at strategies of what would an addition look like at this school
Right.
versus not. And we'll also kind of look at, what does a brand new site and a brand new facility kind of look at as far as monetarily? And we'll try to put some dollars to that. The bidding today on schools is kind of crazy. They're way up there on cost. But we will basically look at the market. We keep good track of where the bids are coming in, and we'll be able to kind of apply square footage cost. Because at that conceptual level, that's all you got to go off of. But we'll try to look at that and kind of see what is the magnitude of that as far as cost of putting an addition on versus a brand new school, to where you have some comparing tools to each other. But yeah, I mean, if we see that one facility is got a good core capacity and they don't have much classroom capacity, and that we can absorb some more classrooms there instead of building a brand new one and the facility checks out, by all means, that's probably what you need to look at.
I think you're going to find we're lacking in core capacity in most of our facilities. That's
Okay.
what I think.
Okay. Well, that's an easy thing we're going to find out. We'll be visiting that cafeteria probably first thing and see how many seats can sit in there. And that's usually the telltale sign, is go to that cafeteria, how big is it, how many seats can you put in there, and look at your population, your capacity, and see how under you are.
There in that third paragraph, are you breaking down that cost, or is that all in addition?
That's breaking it down.
Okay,
That's breaking it down.
okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of give you that phased approach. Yes.
And the
If you
bottom
want to
is
do the facility
subtractions.
assessments and that step one first, that's that first number, and then the second one would be the rest of the project.
Okay, okay. So the total, okay, it's not it's not 160 plus 160, it's,
No.
You're
no,
giving the
no,
break.
No,
I-
no,
That's
no,
what we.
I just about fell out of the chair over there, I'm
no,
sorry.
no.
I got you. It makes more sense.
If we wanted to modify this plan, say if we didn't want to ever build and evaluate it. we could
Absolutely.
modify that.
I mean, you've got what? You've got, let me see, your last two facilities, was it Cornsville High School, 2001, and this building in 2001? You know, I mean, if you are fine with those the way they are, we could pull those back and not look at and then not walk those and observe those. We still will need to get in there to kind of see how you're using it and that kind of thing. But if we don't need to look at that from a field observation and multidiscipline, if you all desire, we can pull some of those out, those two out. Those are your only two latest schools, right? Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay. We will probably, if everybody's in agreement, next meeting, just put this as a discussion. Everybody can really look at this and have any ideas that we can kick around. Maybe we don't want to include this school, whatever if we don't want to.
Yeah.
Maybe we do, maybe we want to do system-wide, but they'll let everybody think about it a little bit. Everybody's pretty bogged down right now. You
I
can
sense
tell.
that a little bit.
Big day, big day.
Our well bucket's full, and we're just kind of sloshing over the edge at this point.
Guys leaking.
Well, we need it. Everybody needs a chance to read over this, kind of understand, we kind of get your eyes on it and understand it a little better.
Okay. And if y'all have questions throughout the next month, before the next meeting, by all means, give me a call, shoot me an email. And we'll respond to those. If we need to look at other options, bring back a dollar for those, absolutely, just let me know. Not a
And we'll
problem.
we'll let you and Mr. Smith, probably
Okay.
after the next meeting, we come back and we have our ideas, whatever, we can let Mr. Smith communicate that with you, however we, you know.
Okay.
If we have any different ideas or,
Yeah.
sound good to everybody? Sound good to you all?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have a